So we'll see if anybody has joined. All right, so we'll be monitoring the chat on one side. It's like
Okay, so it's 0 viewers on.
okay.
How do we join? I've already. It's starting, isn't it?
Yeah, so Facebook will normally send them a notification that it's starting now.
No, this person is not on my Facebook.
Oh, right, okay. So you need to share the link with him.
Yeah, I thought it's this. Let me click on this one and see, because I thought that's the one I sent before.
Okay. Yeah, so that's
the
it.
one
See,
person is yeah. So
right?
let me tell him is.
Maybe he just needs to refresh his Facebook page.
No, it's not on Facebook. Let me
Okay,
just tell him it's this one.
Right. So,
Okay. So that's
one.
one.
Should be one more.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm monitoring.
Is there a way to?
Is there a way to do what?
It's telling me it's not enabling him. It should. Let me click on.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you talked about class setting, but Facebook had a thing where it feels like it's enabled. Huh?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm watching, I can see us.
Yeah.
So where Facebook adds a lag.
Okay, there are 3 viewers now,
Yes.
so I think he's the one.
Okay. All right, great.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you see me? If you can see us, please just if you can just type in and say yes. Okay. Maybe I'm trying to. Okay, yeah, he's gone. Okay, he's there. You can. Okay. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. So today is just an opportunity for me to share how this book came about, and of course, why I think that this book is very, very important for everyone these days. But before then, I'd just like to introduce myself if you haven't actually met me before. So my name is Jeremiah Okore, and on my right-hand side is a friend of mine, Femi, who has just visited for the first time today. Yeah. Please just say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Nice to have you all here.
Okay, so thank you. So obviously, I'll just share my screen. How do I share that?
Yes, so if you scroll down to, it should be a control center. Yeah, go back up. Up. Okay. Alright, just let them know you're trying to.
Okay, just so that you know, I've never used Facebook Live. This is my first time of using Facebook Live. And I just need to share the screen so that you can see what we are covering today. So just bear with us, please.
Okay. We'll figure it out.
So right, that's fine. I mean, I can talk through if the option for some reason we're not seeing that option to share the screen. Hi, welcome Dikimboliji, and of course Pastor Amy. I can see you guys. Thank you for popping in. This video, obviously, when we finish it, it will still be on Facebook, and I'll share it on YouTube as well. I can see other people. It's just I'm not, for some reason, I'm not able to see your names, but I can see that you're there. Thank you for coming on today. For some reason, I don't have the option to share my screen. I know it should really, because I think I saw it.
Yeah.
So it should really work, but I'm not seeing it. and it's my first time using Facebook Live, so please bear with us. But I'll just tell you a little bit of what we will cover today. So first, thank you again for coming in. The first thing that we'll do would be to recap the video that I had sent earlier within the week, and then we'll go on to the birth of godly bed pleasures, how it came about. Then we'll look at the overview of godly bed pleasures, why you should buy godly bed pleasures, and then we go on to look at one model, because I think I did mention that we've got two models. However, I just briefly go through the first one, which is the really easy one, and I'll leave the second one for when you buy the book, and then we'll talk about that one later. And from there, we'll look at the weekly summary of what I intend to do over time, and we then just talk briefly on the way forward, and the last half an hour we'll then use for Q&A. So I'm going to use the first half an hour to just talk about the book. So the first thing is, obviously, if you had watched the video that I sent earlier within the week, you would have seen that I addressed who the book is actually meant for. I did say that the book, Godly Bed Pleasures, is actually meant for everyone. However, my first targets are the married people, as well as the yet to be married, and then to the single people. The youth and teenagers, I said, if you've got children that age, they can read it, but they're not my major targets. And the reason is that I was just focusing on people that are married or that are about to be married. Now, with the younger people, if you think that any one of them, because let's say with the sex education that happens in school and things like that, and obviously the society that we're in, please by all means give them the book, because the book actually talks so much about the dangers of sexual paraphilias, and it does not give room for people to, use it as a pornography or something like that. And then I gave you all, obviously, the table of contents, and I'll also talk about that today. But just bear in mind that the book is actually divided into three. So the part one is just a framework of the book, what the book actually believes, and then the part two looks at sexual paraphilias, the dangers associated to sexual paraphilias and things like that, and then part three is actually on the benefits of enjoying sex as a married person. And of course it goes ahead to talk about how to enjoy sex even more and even achieve orgasm. And then the benefit of that is obviously to keep divorce far away from your marriage and keep your marriage together, especially in this day and age. And finally, that video then talks about where you can get the book, and I did say that you can get the book from Amazon as well as Barnes and Noble. But Amazon is my number one preferred choice. But if you're one of those that don't like buying books or things from Barnes and Noble, then please by all means buy it from there. So then let's talk about how the book came about, or the birth of Godly Bed Pleasures. So some years ago, a pastor in Africa woke up and went ahead and declared over the TV that it was all right to actually masturbate as a Christian. And he went ahead to say that masturbation was not a sin if you don't consider it to be a sin, and as long as you're thinking about any other thing other than sin, then it was fine. Now, when he said that, he obviously shocked the world, the Christian community. And I as a person, I was very, very upset by that, and I thought this can't be, because you don't really have to be a Christian to know that masturbation was wrong. And I said to myself, well, I'm going to go on to argue against it and then publish something about it, because that was a very dangerous move he made. I did start, and I did quite a very huge chunk of research on that. And I saw the dangers and why people shouldn't even think about masturbating. And this, goes beyond Christianity. However, when I got to a very good stage, I just thought, what am I doing? This is stupid. How can I be writing about masturbation? It's not my business and this is shameful. Who on earth would want to actually read anything about masturbation? And I decided not to go ahead with that research. So I just dropped it and said I wasn't interested. And the book, just the masturbation aspects, was there for quite a very long time. And then I decided to pick it up again and say, but then this time I realized that I couldn't write on masturbation without writing on other sexual paraphilias, because I could see that masturbation wasn't a standalone thing. It was just related to other things. And then I started writing again, but then I said, no, this is not for me. It shouldn't be told or heard that somebody like me wrote some. Even how can I even defend it? How would I even be able to talk about it? It was disgusting in my ears, and I decided to abandon it. And it was just lying there for many, many years. I think more than 5 to 6 years. However, in 2020, just before we relocated to where we live at the moment, I had gone to bed one Saturday night, and God actually came and spoke to me in a fearful way and said to me, I gave you something to do. You must go and complete that task. And what he said to me was quite scary. I'm not going to go into that. And so that was Saturday night into Sunday. And I went to church Sunday morning, and somebody handed me a particular chapter in the Bible, and I went and I read it, and it was exactly the warning that God had given to me the night before, and that was scary, and I was worried. And then I said, I'm going to go look into this. I went home. I was still thinking about it, and the following weekend, God came and gave me exactly the same message. And I went to the church, and I was handed over another slip, and this time a different verse of the Bible, but the same scary message again.
At this point, did you now become convinced that it wasn't just your thinking, it wasn't just you imagining this, it was actually a message that you were receiving, even if you initially struggled with receiving the fact or accepting the fact that, oh, this could actually be a message? Yeah,
absolutely, yes, thank you. That's actually what happened. I was fully convinced, and I thought, if God has to come to me to tell me the same thing twice, and then through the church, somebody that didn't know what was happening and handed me the same slip with 2 different chapters twice, that is 4 times God was speaking to me about this. I thought, this is scary, and therefore I must do this. So what then did I do? I decided to dust it, and I think I said to a few people, please pray for me, because I'm going to embark on something that I've never done before and I'm not used to. Naturally, I wouldn't want to write a book about sex. So anyway, I went into it and I started writing it, and I finished it. But I just didn't know how to publish it. And I in fact, it took me so much, and I really thought so much about it. And even after the publication, I said to people, oh, this is going to be published, but I never did, because I was still thinking and praying. And, each time I finished, it was still the same thing. And each time I finished, it was still, and I decided, well, I don't have a choice. Even if this message is meant for just one person, I'm going to go ahead to publish it. And if God is asking me to do it, I'm going to do it. And that was how this book came about. And I hope that if you decide to go through it and to buy it, that it will be a blessing to you and your family and children as well. Thank you.
All right, great.
So, obviously that takes us to the overview of the book. Now, as I did say before, it is shared into 3 parts. The number 1 part is just a framework that explains what, we believe in and what you should really expect. And the second part talks about sexual paraphilia. So this means, well, I actually just break down what sexual paraphilia means. Sexual paraphilia just means sexual anomalies, or what we will call sexual perversions.
Right.
So that's just what it means. Now, I use the word paraphilia because that is what the medical world would use.
Yeah, all right, cool.
And the third part of the book then talks about the ingredients that married people would apply in their marriage to enjoy sex and enjoy their marriage and spice things up, Now I'm going to actually tell you briefly about the second part, which is the side that actually motivated the book. And this part, first, when you do get the book, you see it talks so much about pornography, but it does not look at pornography from the worldly view. It looks at pornography from the spiritual aspect. Now, what do I mean by that? Whilst in the world today, people would actually talk about pornography from objectification of women, they forget that women actually watch pornography. So you also talk about addiction, but addiction is not actually a spiritual word. So when you go through the book, what you would see is, for example, what has pornography done to people? You might not know, but pornography has actually sacked a lot of people from their jobs. Some of them directly because they watched it at work, and some of them indirectly because it affected their work performance.
Absolutely.
And so these are the kind of things you see. And of course, when you look at masturbation, for example, what the media would not tell us is that masturbation, for example, actually causes mental illness. But this is there, and actually it is in the Bible as well. This is scriptural. And also, do you know that masturbation actually causes death? I mean, physical death.
That's shocking to hear.
Well, yeah. And honestly, I'll tell you, because it was during my research, although I had that feeling, but I didn't know. But I went on to then research about it, and I saw that actually there are so many deaths out there caused by
directly.
But the question would then be, so why is it that nobody talks about it, the media doesn't talk about it, and we're not aware of it? Now,
rather having it being glamorized as an escape, as self-love. I'm sure you came across that term as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So, the media, for example, will tell us all the good things about masturbation and things like that, but no, it has so much dangers. And I tell one of the dangers, talking about death, is that it actually triggers an imbalance in the human electrical system. And when that actually goes up or down, that then triggers what we call cardiac arrest.
Right.
And now the danger with that is that to some people, when it happens, it kills them. Now, what has happened over the years, why we don't know that these things happen, is that when it happens, the government and the coroner don't call it death from masturbation. And that is because, one, they want to respect the deceased family.
Yeah.
Because it is shameful to just write that
someone died out of so and so reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So what they then do is that they tend to write cardiac arrests, or they write natural death by natural causes. That's what they do.
Sounds really familiar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you now go deep, if you know the case and you now go deep, you can then see the traces of what actually happened. So that's what this book is about. And obviously, like I said, I leave you to read that. And obviously, you also have things such as sexual exposures that people do. And of course, you also have fetishes as well. Yeah. Now, these are things that have spiritual impact. But because of our time, I'm not going to go into all of them one after the other, because I did say to you that you must get the book and you must benefit from it. I'm not going to take away that benefit away from you. And one thing I must also point out is in chapter 12. Now, chapter 12 is slightly different because chapter 12 is actually about transgenderism.
Okay.
And unlike the other chapters, chapter 12 brings so much about me.
Okay.
So that was motivated from my own experience. Now, why have I brought it in? I have brought it in because I felt that God wanted me to speak something about it, to tell people that transgenderism is not a natural occurrence.
Right.
It is not a social construct. Because in this day and age, people do talk about...
it's a hot topic, yeah. I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I, as a person, I was a child when I knew what transgenderism was. But I did not know that it was called transgenderism.
Right, okay.
And I did not know that it was in the Bible. I never knew because I couldn't read at then.
If I was to say, I'll say today I learned.
Exactly.
All those situations.
So, but I'll leave you because it's a long story. When you buy the book and read it, you'll find out how I knew. Because somebody, I'll give you a tidbit about it. Somebody, a young girl had walked up to me. I went to school and a young girl walked up to me. And I knew her. So it wasn't like I didn't know her. She walked up to me and said, I came from the Marine Spirit. And they have asked you to join us and we will turn you into a woman. So from there, it was a very big battle for me. And anyway, so many years of battle against them. And at the end of the day, I overcame. But it got to the point where I had to leave the house. I couldn't sleep at home because I was having visitations that were not normal. So I ran away from the house because I didn't live with my parents and I didn't have anyone at home. Yeah. So I had no one to share things with me. So I was sleeping outside, especially at night.
Wow.
Until obviously, and to make matters worse, I was also a dramatist. So I was dramatizing and was actually acting female roles. And I acted female roles better than women. But I didn't know that I was actually living the life that they said they would make me into. So I live it at that state.
Like you were manifesting already.
I was already manifesting without knowing that I was doing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so because I've got just 4 minutes to wrap up the first part before we go to the second part. So the second part, the third part of the book, obviously, like I did say, is how to enjoy sex as married people. So, and that I will leave for you to find out more. And then the next thing is, why should you buy this book? Well, I mean, apart from the little I've said, I'll tell you the key reason why you should buy this book. It is written in Matthew chapter 18, 6 to 7. You can read that on your own because I don't have time to read it here. Now, what does Matthew chapter 18, 6 to 7 say? There, Jesus said to his listeners that the world will create a stumbling block to children. But woe to the person that would be an instrument that will make these children fall. And Jesus went ahead to say that it would be better for somebody to actually allow themselves to be hanged and thrown into the water. So technically, Jesus was saying, it will be better for you to die, get people, if it means stoning you to death or whatever, get people to kill you so that you don't become a stumbling block to children. Because if you do, the repercussion will be worse than what you can ever imagine. And for me, people that when I read this passage, I just think people that don't understand Jesus very well will say, oh, he was a very gentle guy, very meek. He wouldn't, cause somebody to die. But actually, if Jesus can say that it is better for you to die than to cause his own children to sin, what was he trying to say? He was trying to say, I value children much more than you can ever imagine. It took him so much to create a single child. Each child you see, God has already invested heavily in them. And he wants them to live out their full lifespan. Now, what does this mean? Sexual paraphilia, which is the second part that we looked at, is a very hot topic at the moment. And we as parents and even as adults, we have a responsibility to protect children by not just what we say, but also by our actions. So what does this mean then? The implication for you as a married person is that if you engage in sexual paraphilia such as BDSM or pornography, you are having a negative impact in the children around you. And I've listened to interviews of killers, both in the US and in this country.
Like you mean serial killers?
Yes, and rapists. And each one of them would normally say something that aligns with every other person. They say, it was my parents, or it was the way somebody raped me, or somebody did this. Oh, my parents made me watch porn. Now you ask yourself, how? Well, sometimes we as parents, we can do some of these things and we think that we are doing them in secret. However, when we do them, we have given authority to the devil to mark our home as a target. And so the spirit of familiar, we call it familiar spirit, takes charge of that family, and they now mark those children, that those children grow up, they might not have done anything wrong, but that spirit just activates that thing in them. And this also you'll find in the Bible as well. I've got passages when you read the book where the Bible talks about Ezekiel, that when people engage in sexual paraphilias, their children would also be affected. So because of time, I'll stop there. I think I'll jump the STQ and the module that I wanted to go through, and I'll go because I want to stop at 6 on the dot. What I'll do is I'll go to the Q&A first. If after the Q&A we have time, then I can go back to the ones I've jumped on. Otherwise, I'll tell you how we can continue with those ones. So if anyone has got questions, please do feel free to pop them in the chat room. And of course, Femi, if you've got any questions that you wanted, please.
I definitely will find some questions for you. Yeah, if you have any questions. All right, are we in the Q&A section now, or just letting us know if there are any questions?
We are in the Q&A section.
Okay, so I'll monitor the chat and see if anyone has questions. I mean, this is touching on a lot of topics that we call hot topics today. It's one that I find that people are even too afraid to come out and speak about, because if you're speaking against a certain, if you're not leaning towards one space, one part of the argument or the conversation or the debate, then don't say anything at all. And we all know what I'm referring to here. Yeah. So you either have to be pro this or just keep quiet about the issue of transgenderism, sexuality, and all sorts of perverseness that we have going on in the world. So I know you've said, you had that conviction, God placed it in your heart. You had several signs, you had people come to you that led you to really do this. At what point, what could have stopped you going on? you did a lot of research. Did you find things that overwhelmed during the process and said, no, look, this is too much for me to delve into?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's a very brilliant question. Actually, yes. I think that was one of the reasons why many times I stopped because, and I think this is one of the reasons why you have to get the book because I have done the research for you. I've gone to dark places to actually produce this book. So when you read this book, you'll find that so much research has been done, and yet the book has come out very cleaned. So what does that mean? I went to sites and to places I would not go to as a person, but because in obedience, I needed to get what I needed to get so that another person would not go in there and become a prey.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what happened. I went to BDSM sites, I went to kinky sites, I went to sites where people actually talked about how they murdered people just to have sex with corpses or have sex over them. Yeah, because, and that's what this book will tell you a lot, that many people became killers just to have sex with corpses. And when I say people, I mean even young girls. Yeah. So the examples that you find in the book, those examples are not special, they're not unique. I just picked the ones that I felt, okay, these are probably not too gruesome. Maybe they're not so terrible. Or, you know.
But enough to expose.
Exactly. So in one of the cases, I'll tell you this, one of the cases, a young girl of, I think about 24, she had this urge to have sex over corpses, and then she got a friend of hers and a boyfriend, and they killed 2 boys. This happened in the US. They killed 2 innocent boys and had threesome on those, and those 3 young stars are in prison as I talk.
Right.
Now, they wouldn't have woken up and decided this is what we'll do. No.
Right.
This is a bondage that came from familiar spirit and chained them into it. And so whatever they were doing, they didn't really know. And I can guarantee you the last time I checked on them, just before I published this book, I checked if they've had any remorse. No. They, for some reason, just don't seem to even know what they've done.
Contrary, or rather, is it contrarily or surprisingly, they may have sprung, their action may have sprung some following.
Yeah.
Yeah, some discipleship, some people might have actually gotten into doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. So sexual paraphilias don't have negative effect overnight. It takes years. So someone, let's take for example, when somebody, I mean, I was checking, there were doctors, even in the UK, for example, that pornography has got them to lose their licenses, yes. And it didn't happen overnight. So some of them lost their jobs, let's say 2016. But when you look at the story says that this person has been on and off as far back as 1990 something, taking pictures of their patients, going to their patients, meeting them in the hotel, and sending nude images of themselves to patients. So it takes years, then eventually they get the sack.
Wow.
So these things
build up.
Exactly. So yes, I went into dark places just to produce this. And many times I had to pray so much and say, God, please help me. Give me the strength. I'm about to go. And now to tell you that this is not natural, these things. Do you know that some of them, before I go, or after using them, I start having strange dreams?
Yeah.
But like I said, I've done the research for you. You don't need to do any research, and you don't need to go anywhere. So let's take one question from the chat. I think somebody's asking if there's an e-copy. Yes, there is an e-copy. So the book is in 3 formats. So you've got the Kindle copy, and then you've got the paperback, and you've got the hardcover. So I've made it like that so that you can choose whichever one that you are more comfortable with. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. So far, it's just people commenting the
Okay.
book and talking about how they're looking forward to getting a copy of it and can't wait to read it. I'm sure some people have heard most of the intro. A few people joined midway through the conversations and probably need to, perhaps if we could try to share the page.
Yeah.
So if they just give us a second.
Okay, can it work now?
Yes, I will give it a try. Just so that
So whilst you're doing that, I can then go on to, unless of course if we have a question, then I'll stop. So whilst you're doing that, I can then go on to talk about the plan for this book. So I've got a plan that I want to, because I know the nature of this book, and of course I know that people are also busy as well, and therefore you can get the book but might not read as fast as you probably should. So what I intend to do is that from next week I want to start like a 5 to 10 minutes mini teaching on the book. So I'll take a chapter and I'll summarize it in 5 to 10 minutes. So that's the plan that I really want to do. So so that and also whilst I'm doing that, I'm thinking of doing it live on YouTube actually.
Okay.
So whilst I do that, you can join. And I think 5 p.m. on Saturday would be good. So if you're available, you can always jump in and on that video. But if you don't have the time, please, by all means, you visit the YouTube and watch the video, because I just want to give people the different options of, yes, you have the book, because definitely you have to get the book, because I can't summarize an entire chapter, because when you get the book you see that some of the issues have more than 1 chapters.
Right.
So I can't summarize an entire chapter or 2 chapters in 5 minutes, and it will be worth so much for you.
Okay.
Moreover, in writing you have all the concentration than when you are doing video.
Okay.
So I wanted to still get the book, and then obviously if you do have questions you can always send them to me across, or maybe during the YouTube message as well you can ask your questions.
All right. Yeah, so I think a lot of people are just commenting that they would really want to get the e-copies. So yeah,
Okay.
you'll be providing the link to how they can all get the e-copies shortly.
Yeah, so okay, I think what I'll do is that just send a link to my Facebook as well on how to get the e-copy there. I mean the link to Amazon. So the next thing then, since we still have time, I can go back to the other things. Obviously, if there's any question, I would jump right back to the question. But the next thing then is to talk about where we go from here. So where do we go from here? Because I want you to understand that whilst God has led me to write this, it won't stop there. I have a passion to cover areas that people don't really like covering, because as you know, what I've written is, or I should say, something that pastors and teachers wouldn't want to cover, and obviously there's a reason for that.
Of course.
If it's not their calling, it's not their calling.
Yeah.
And apart from that, they might not be willing to go to the places I went to. And you can't blame, obviously nobody can and should really be jack of all trade.
Yeah.
When Paul was there going to the non-Jewish people, you had Peter and the other apostles also doing their own job. So everyone has got their own orbit where they operate. So for me, I will still carry on to not only write books but also produce videos that would look into areas that are not conventionally talked about within the Christian community, and yet they are having so much impact within the Christian community, negative impact, because for example, when we hear about a pastor violating his members, it didn't happen overnight. That pastor has struggled over years with some of these paraphilias, and then it came up. So that's why I still have to cover this to help. And actually, even before I think whilst I was writing this book, I did meet people that are both men and women that actually did say to me, you know what, part of the problems we have is that nobody actually tells us the boundary. So this book tells you the boundary where sexual paraphilia stops and where sexual enjoyment starts. So I need to clarify, and I need to tell you that God has no problem with you enjoying sex as a married person. Actually, God created sex, and he wants, in fact, he holds us accountable if we don't enjoy it. And this is one of the misconceptions. People think that sex is just only when you want children. It's not. It goes beyond that. So we need to ensure that we learn these things. The book is actually in teaching format, so you would enjoy it. I can guarantee I won't sell something that I wouldn't like to read. No. Each time I read a book, I still ask myself if I produced it.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good.
So the next thing then is I want you to partner with me. Now, when I say partner with me, it's not a monetary terms. No. When I say I want you to partner with me, what it means is that I want you to really support in this job, and I'll explain more. So when I started writing this book, I said that God pushed me to do it. It wasn't my intent. But the second thing that then motivated me, that made me to draw more strength, was that I was shocked when during my research that people were writing so many rubbish out there. There's so much junk out there, and they are bold. They boldly put things. I'll give you an example. I read about people that wrote about BDSM, including pastors. Now, when they talked about BDSM, they talked about it from spiritual point, how it helped them to know God. And I was so upset. I thought, how can you talk about a demonic thing in a Christian way and you want people to utilize it? And so the point I'm making here is that if we conservatives, if we the Christians just sit back and say, well, it doesn't matter, we know our family, we're praying for them, they won't do such evil things. What we don't know is that we're actually handing the mantle of authority over to the demonic world, and they are the ones ruling.
Absolutely.
And you can see this in our education system. In our education systems, not just in the UK here, but in the US and the whole world. The only reason why children are being forced into sex education that are immoral, and it is compulsory, you can't even take your child off it, is that these liberals that are agents of darkness have occupied the top positions in our education systems.
I agree.
And that's because we pulled back, and so they now went in and took over. And so they now make it compulsory for children. And when you go back to my chapter 12 of the book, you would see that chapter 12, I said that the target is the one to get you as a child. Get them young, then confuse them.
Yeah.
When you confuse them, you've also confused the future generation. So this is posterity. This is the war we need to fight to protect. Exactly. Yeah. But if we as Christians, if we can stand up and say we must take our positions within the community, then they would not succeed. Then nobody would rise up and tell you how your child should know about sex when you know your child more.
Yeah.
These people that are actually trying to teach these children and get them changed medically are themselves struggling.
Yeah.
They are committing suicide all the time.
All the time, yeah.
That's because they know they are under the bondage of devil, and so they want people they can pull
along with them. They've been sold this truth. It's been sold as it's become their new reality.
Exactly.
Whether it's the real thing, as long as they've made it their own reality, it's a form of validation if they can get other people to go down the same road with them.
Exactly. And that's the point. And actually, when you read chapter 12 of the book, where I talked about myself in transgenderism, I think that's one of the things I explained. That if they had succeeded, I would have woken up and then I would go about telling people, oh, you know what? I was actually born a woman because because as a child I could see the threats in me. Yeah. And when I said that, people would believe me, people would buy the story, and that would actually get some people in the world into transgenderism.
Exactly.
But would I have said the truth? No, that would have been a big lie. So that's one of the reasons that you need to get the book to understand what is going on. So now when I say to partner with me, what does that mean? It means that I want you to share all the videos that I have made and will make pertaining this book. All the teachings that will come after today, please share them along. And secondly, it also means that I just don't want you to buy the book. I want you to buy and read. Because if you buy the book and just keep it on your shelf, you are not doing me good. I don't want you to buy because I want money. No. And I have to actually
put it out there.
Because I think I did have a few people came to me and said, why not do a proper launch where people can donate money and say if the book is £10, they can give 100 or 300. I said, no, I don't want that. Because first, I'm not doing this because I wanted to make money out of it. If I wanted to make money writing books, I know how to do it. People do it all the time. All I just need to do is go to Google, search for what people are interested in, and then write a 20 to 30,000 words of that thing.
And with AI these days.
Exactly. With AI, it's very easy. And I can publish about 3 books in a year, and I'll make my money. But no, I don't write because I want to make money. That's not the reason. And so this book is actually I think about 79,000 words.
Okay.
It's either 79 or 69. I'm not too sure which one. But that tells you that it is a huge book, even though I've tried to condense it. So please, that is one of the reasons. And also, apart from you buying and reading it, I also want you to buy it and hand it over to your neighbor who is an unbeliever or a Christian. Now, please feel free to buy it and give it to a Christian, because you might be in your own marriage and you're enjoying your marriage, you're happy with your marriage, things are moving smoothly, and you feel, whoa, that is fantastic. But actually, what you might not know is that your next door neighbor, in the church, or even your next door neighbor as in next door neighbor, is struggling in their marriage, or maybe their children. But if you can hand this book over to them, that can save them from divorce, it can save them from whatever their even mental issues. Because one thing you might not know is that sexual paraphilias give mental health issues, and I broke that down as well in the book. I put some medical evidence there, so I'm not telling you stories I want to tell you. These are facts, and there are medical evidence behind it, medical research behind it. Okay, we've got 7 minutes. So that's the way I want you to partner with me. So please, it's not money. I don't want you to partner with me in terms of giving me money or contributing money. No. It's by you buying the book, reading it yourself, buying the book and giving it to another person in form of evangelism, in form of encouragement to a Christian brother or a Christian sister. And also, when I do produce any teaching, like I said, 5-10 minutes video, because I know that people don't like long videos these days. You share it because you don't know who it might help, and I think that should be enough. So, do we have any questions?
No questions for now. Just commending the book, talking about how they want to read and get an e-copy. So it's a good time to share that.
So thank you very much, everyone, for your comments. I think actually, because I'm not able to share my screen, like I said, this is the first time I'm using Facebook Live. I've never used it, and for some reason the share disappeared. We did see it before we started, but it disappeared. So what I would in that case, actually, it just literally just means that I'm not able to show you the module that I wanted to show you, because I wanted to treat one module with you, one of the sex modules that can help you to identify what falls within sexual paraphilia and what falls outside sexual paraphilia, or what is within the remit of godly pleasure. So what I will do as part of the teaching series that would follow on from next week is that I would instead of actually, because those two modules are in chapter 16 where I talked about oral sex. So instead of waiting till chapter 16, I will treat the first module first, before I carry on with the other teaching. So the second module I will leave till chapter 16, because the second module is quite technical. So because it is quite technical, even when you get the book, you can look into the first module, which is straightforward. The second module is technical, and therefore I want to really break it down myself very well so that you won't be confused about it. But the first module is actually 5 questions. All you need to do is to get, I think, the first 4 questions. If the answers are on top of my head, I think if the answers are no, and then the last question is yes. If you get 4 yeses and 4 no's and 1 yes, then it means that the sex act is fine and you can enjoy it. Right. But if you get 1 fail from the 5 questions, it means that you shouldn't go ahead with that sex.
So basically, this is a framework to use to gauge, the activities that you do and determine is this moral or immoral. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Okay. So that's what it is. So I would treat the first module next week. That is the promise, because that one is simple. And the reason I want to treat it first is that then when you go through the list of sexual paraphilias, you can apply them and see if what I have said actually works or not. And so by the time you get to chapter 16, I will then treat the second module, which is more technical. But normally I would say you can use the 2 modules together, because that way, no matter how tricky you think that a new sex act is, and actually goes beyond sex act, even in your daily life, if you wanted to use them, you can apply them. If you get a go ahead, please go ahead. Because, and I'll tell you, maybe I'll just quickly tell you, we have 2 minutes, so I'll tell you in 30 seconds how I came about those modules. God gave me those modules. That's the simple answer to them.
Yeah.
God gave me those. I didn't, well, when you go through them, you know that I didn't create them myself. So because it's 6, I have to maintain the time. So I've got 2 minutes and I'll stop here. If there's any question, I'll take it. Otherwise, we can close. Yeah.
I'd just like to train something before you go. So I noticed a few of the people who joined the call were those who we shared the links to at the last minute, who don't currently follow your page, on Facebook. So it will be a nice thing if you're on this call listening, if you've joined just because you got a link at the last minute. Please like Jerry's page and continue to follow so you get updates on what he'll be doing subsequently, the teaching series that he's starting. And then if you do like the page, you would also get a link to the channels, to the stores, the online stores where you could buy the book from Amazon or Barnes & Noble, where you could get the e-copy and could also share with others as well. So yes, that's what I just wanted to train at the last minute. So yes, buy the book, read it, digest it, share the principles that you learned from it. If you're not able to extend a copy of it to your neighbor, friend, as Jerry has said, but would be good if you could, take the learnings from this. Let's be bold about this message. We have to, let's do it for ourselves. Let's do it for the sake of posterity, our kids, the innocence of our children. That's where this battle is taking place. In the nursery schools, in the primary schools, everybody knows no place in the world is exempt from this at the moment. The curriculum is changing. They are sneaking in sneaky content into the materials that our children watch on YouTube, and censorship is out of the window right now because, like Jerry said, these people, the liberals, right, have taken over everything as we know it. So yes, Jerry, thank you for the session. And
so thank you very much, Femi. So Femi, for those of you that joined in later, so Femi was visiting Togo for the first time, and I thought it would be nice for him to just join. So this wasn't planned, by the way, but yeah, he just had to come. And I want to say thank you very much to all of you that joined. And just like Femi said, please go ahead and like the page and follow us, and you'll get more updates. And obviously, it will be easy as well to get your own questions or anything that you think you want clarity on. But thank you so much for today. Go ahead. I will share the link on how to get the book. And thank you, and God bless.
God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.